some slides that we're going to go over. So many things happen. So let's break down all of these things. I've got about 10 of them.
So, Reverend Sharpton, what was your reaction when you heard and when you learned that Nolan Wells had been found 6 days after he had been reported missing on that boat on the 4th of July?
I was, first of all, stunned at the fact that this young man is going out, he and 3 friends, he black, they white, and a day later, his mother and them start searching for him. No one comes forward. And then they find out after 2 days that they claim his body was washed up.
The first claim that he made, he black, they white. We're going to call that fallacy racial priming. I know I'm looking over here, but over there is where the words are, but it's just the way my camera is. But know that I'm talking about this over here, even though I'm looking here. What the evidence actually supports. Race is known, yes. Nolan is black. The young men he was with were white. Yes, there were other blacks involved too, but that doesn't matter. All you need to do is focus on the he black, they white, okay? A racial motive is not known. There's been no evidence to support that, but they're going to keep driving it and jamming it home until you're convinced that it must be. I don't need evidence. I know white folks. That's what they want you to do. They want you to be convinced in your own mind that you don't need the evidence because you know you are the third member of the Trinity. You can discern the thoughts and hearts and intentions of the white man. That's what they want you to believe. Race is a fact. Motive, however, requires evidence. Unanswered questions absolutely justify an investigation, not a pre-selected racial conclusion.
And that he'd given his cell phone and his keys to one of the 3 friends, saying he didn't want to go back from Horn Island with them. Well, first of all, it's very, very unlikely for most 18-year-olds to ever give up their cell phone. But if you're going to stay on an island that nobody's there other than people, tourists or partiers, why would you want to give up your cell phone?
Fallacy number 2. Well, you know, teenagers don't give up their phones. This fallacy is called appeal to normality. The evidence supports the fact that an unusual choice warrants inquiry. Yes, okay, that is strange. Why didn't he have his phone? Let's explore that further. Let's see what kind of evidence that we can gather to explain or support this. What he does is automatically makes you guilty because you know that's just not normal. Unusual does not mean criminal. There's so many other explanations that he could have appealed to, but those were inconvenient. So he had to appeal to they're just not normal. There must be some foul play happened.
Then when they track the cell phone down and find out which one of the young men had it, and the keys, which they first said they didn't have, then he had to admit he did. All of his photos, text messages, everything on the phone had been erased.
Fallacy number 3. Well, everything was erased. Fallacy here, premature conclusion. What the evidence actually supports. The joint forensic phone review isn't complete yet.
Flag on the play.
No, it hasn't even been complete. But look at the conclusions that the brain dead morons keep coming to. The joint forensic phone review is not complete. So what is this that we should learn from this? Forensics first, conclusions second. They've inversed that, collapsed the categories, and they're like, no, we're going to draw conclusions first. And then if, the forensics prove that we were wrong, we're not going to retract. We're just going to act like that never happened because that's in the past. Just like so many of the Facebook posts that Ben Crump has already put up that have been debunked and proven. Has he gone back to correct the record? No. All he said was, we were just putting up posters. We had it. We hadn't vetted nothing. We hadn't vetted anything. They did that on purpose. They're trying to stoke the flames of racial hatred. This is all a part of the Democrat Party's midterm election interference strategy. I don't care if you're like, April, what evidence do you have of that? History. This is what they do. It's called pattern recognition.
With that being said, what more evidence? You literally just brought up his cell phone is missing. The young man says one thing and then goes back and the cell phone and the keys are found with him. What more evidence do you think is needed for the sheriffs and the investigators to say that there is suspected foul play in this case?
I think that the evidence that is needed to build on is already there. Have they brought these three young men in for questioning under oath? Have they gone through a search of fingerprints and other things on the cell phone? Either they are doing policing or they're doing covering up. And that is why Ben Crump and Nash X Network and I got involved.
Fallacy number 4. Here's the claim. Either these people are policing or covering up. This is the false dilemma. Here's what the evidence shows. Mistakes, caution, or withheld details remain possible. No one is saying that it can't. 2 options were offered, but more exist. But Al doesn't want you to think about those. The only other option is, well, either they're policing or they got to be covering up something. You know nothing. The problem is they're probably not telling you everything because they don't trust you, because they've already seen how you've turned this into a daggone circus.
Reverend Sharpton, do you think race played a role in this case? We actually, on our TMZ live show, had one of Nolan's friends, a young African-American male, and we asked him the same question, and he felt uncomfortable to answer. He didn't want to answer the question, but with what we're seeing, like you said, Nolan was a young black man out on a boat with 3 white people, and the majority of the people on that island were white. Do you think race is playing a role in this case, and do you think race will play a role in the outcome of this case?
I will say this. I do not know that race played a role, but I do not know race did not play a role.
Fallacy number 5. Here's the claim. I don't know, race didn't play a role. Then, dummy, you're arguing from ignorance. That's what this fallacy is called. Not disproved does not mean evidence supported. The burden is to prove, not to disprove. How are you making this illogical leap by saying, I don't know that race played a role, but I'm not ruling it out? You've already made the determination. You're arguing from ignorance. There have been no facts or evidence to point or support. In fact, more people have said, from the coach to his classmates to the people on the island, was like, I don't really understand why this is being turned into something racially motivated. But do you think that's going to stop the pro-wokety woke blackity black crowd from pushing that element? No. They needs it. They needs it.
Many of us feel that there were 3 black guys and a white kid was missing, they would have held them probably in custody and certainly had them seriously under scrutiny on if it was the reverse, in our opinion. But the family has said they don't want to say race, but they don't want it taken off the table. How do we know? Particularly when you have a sheriff saying there was no foul play.
Here's the next claim. If the races were reversed, here it is. The goal is to make you think that no matter what you do, you are always just behind the 8 ball. Him can't never get no justice. The black man, that is. Because the deck is always stacked up against you. It's always some nefarious intent. Nothing's ever your fault. This fallacy is called the unproven counterfactual fallacy. Here's what the evidence actually supports. No properly matched comparison case is supplied. Imagined disparity is not proven disparity, meaning they can't point to any other parallel or apples to apples case that would prove that if the roles were reversed, this would be handled different. They have no evidence of it. They just say it. It's assumed. In the melanated minded Marxist Negro's brain, this is how they think. You don't need evidence to support your assertion. You just say it, and you say it confidently too, and they'll believe it. Because logical, argumentation and saying, okay, well, what evidence do I have to support that? You don't need it. It's all from emotion. That's where it comes from. You don't need facts. No, facts are tricky things.
The real unfortunate part is with this present administration in Washington, Donald Trump. You can't even say, as we've said historically, whether it was from Abner Louima in the 90s to George Floyd a couple of years ago, we'll go get the feds. You can't get this Justice Department.
Number 7, the claim is you had George Floyd, you had Michael Brown, you had Breonna Taylor and the Louima guy. This is the fallacy of historical association. Where am I going? I'm just running away like a runaway train. I'm sorry, y'all. The evidence actually supports past cases provide no evidence in Nolan Wells' death. But does that stop them from appearing to the historical association fallacy? No, because what it's designed to do is make you think about, oh, that poor George Floyd just whining and crying and groveling and begging for his mama while he is high with that white man's knee on his neck. It was shameful. Forget the fact. Y'all ain't gonna like, I know y'all don't like when I call him a crackhead criminal, but I'm not saying he deserved to die. What I am saying is that George Floyd succumbed to a fentanyl overdose on his own recognizance while committing a crime and resisting arrest. That is what happened. But no, they want you to believe that it was the white man's knee on his neck. That's why they're trying to invoke your emotions and get you all riled up from all of these cases that have been proven to not have had race as a factor, but typically it was a black person committing crime where police were involved and it became a problem and they turned it into a race hoax.
Do you see this as an isolated incident or something that's becoming a part of a larger pattern? We've started to see, I know it's a kind of a different case, but like Carmelo Anthony with the race and all that, this stuff. Do you think that these situations where these young black kids, I will say, teenagers, young adults, if you will, are hanging out with the majority of white people, and then something bad happens to them, and then all of a sudden nobody knows anything? Do you think this is an isolated incident?
I am beginning to see a pattern.
Here we go. Number 8, I'm beginning to see a pattern. What fallacy is this? Hasty generalization. So unresolved anecdotes cannot establish a trend. A pattern, thus it's kind of by definition, a pattern requires data, not 2 headlines. But that doesn't stop Al. He's beginning to see a pattern. And we're like, you just making a generalization on the basis of what? By what standard, sir, do you see a pattern? He doesn't. He's just saying it.
And I think that I hear parents in National Action Network, I hear parents that call my radio show saying, I'm telling my kids, don't go out with other people. I mean, people are just naturally becoming very apprehensive. And we shouldn't have to live like this. And unless there is a signal sent from the justice system that do some real justice in these cases, they will only intensify people's fear of even having social settings with people of different races for their children.
Number 9, the claim. Fear of interracial socializing. You know, you can't be too trustful. You better watch your black kids around them whites. That's the hatred and the division that he wants to sow. The fallacy is called appeal to fear. No general interracial danger has been shown in this case. These kids seem like they are very comfortable around one another, hanging out with one another all the time. They grew up together, been in school together with one another. The coach was like, no, like we don't really. He was like, in my experience, I've never even seen it. I mean, this was a big black burly coach. I mean, he like looked like he was homegrown Mississippi. He like, I've never seen that. I mean, he was a great kid. We're sad. Like, all of the people they're talking to seem more interested in the fact that Nolan Wells is dead, but the racial grievance crowd keeps trying to bring in elements that have not been proven or established to make this about race. And people intimately connected in this boy's friend circle were like, no, we never saw evidence of that. Suspicion is being spread well beyond the evidence.
The real unfortunate part is with this present administration in Washington, Donald Trump. You can't even say, as we've said historically, whether it was from Abner Louima in the 90s to George Floyd a couple of years ago, we'll go get the feds. You can't get this Justice Department.
The Trump DOJ won't help. This, I knew he was going to pull that Trump card. And this is what led me to believe him. And I'm going to show you Benjamin Crump both invoked the name of Donald Trump in this local case. This is when I realized, I said, this is a part of the election interference strategy, because Trump, this is a local state issue that they have made national, and they are trying to insert Donald Trump into this. And he like, I ain't got nothing. What did I do now other than exist? Their derangement shows, and this is called political scapegoating. They already know that black folks already have Trump derangement syndrome. Not all, but a lot. Why? Because white liberals told you to hate them. They don't really, if you ask them, they will, he's just racist. And you're like, well, tell me, like, can you explain to me, like, how he's racist? They regurgitate the same recycled talking points. And you're like, but that has been debunked. Like, where have you been? Well, I just think he is. I just do. So the racial scapegoating could not be left out, because that's going to imprint in your mind. You know, we do got the election coming up. We got to make sure that we vote blue no matter who, because of Trump. Trump has to be the boogeyman. He must be the political scapegoat. The FBI, here's what the evidence actually supports. The FBI says that it's been involved in assisting since day one. Do you think they care about the truth? No. They just make this argument because they know they need a political scapegoat, and it has to be Donald Trump. The political claim right here in reality collides with the record, but it doesn't matter. These people are so dishonest that it doesn't matter. And then you have the people that follow them. These black operatives in the Iron Triangle are so accustomed to not being held accountable that even when the political claim collides with the record, they'll never go back to correct the record. Even when, I'm going to give this TMZ host credit, she even tried to point out, like, hey, I mean, there's a few things that y'all said that has kind of been corroborated or debunked. Did he engage with it? No. All he did was hurl more accusations to move and take the attention off of the question that she asked and to still sow more distrust. It's so Weasley and disgusting how they do it. I've just sat here and broke down 10 of your logical fallacies. I've pointed them out. I've named them. You people are dishonest. And they should be ashamed of themselves. And it worries me that the partiality and the hatred, let's just use biblical language for a minute. It is hatred in the heart that makes people distrustful of individuals on the basis of ethnicity without having any interaction with these people and just making these assumptions. Well, all white people must be this way. How would you feel if everybody said, well, all black people must be ghetto and steal and do drugs and twerk? That's what they do. You see them on the internet and how they are. Now, I ain't gonna lie. There's probably some white folks that they probably think it because you give them enough evidence for them to draw that conclusion. But they at least have the human decency to not say it out loud because they're like, you know what? I've actually met some really good and decent black folks that don't act anything like that. Why is it that we won't give our white neighbors the same benefit of the doubt? Do you think I'm sitting up here saying that white people, there's just no evidence of racism at all? Of course not. Racism is a sin. It's ethnic partiality on the basis of ethnicity. It's a sin and it stems from hatred in the heart where you hate your brother for no other cause other than the fact that, they different from me. So we don't give them the benefit of the doubt, but you always want the benefit of the doubt. Why is that? Why is the first knee-jerk reaction, oh, it's racist? They need to start flipping it on y'all and watch you crash out.